Colonization. How do we move forward from it? Healing the past and shaping the future. Colonization is a historical practice that's existed for millennia. It's a practice of domination through force or deception. From the times of the Greeks to the Romans to the Mughals to the British, there's been some form of colonization and domination happening across the globe. However, this has left indelible scars on societies across the world, including two of my homelands, India and New Zealand. While discussions about reparations and decolonization have been discussed by various scholars, either go through an academic website to find these articles or just Google it, and you will see a number of perspectives on this topic, many of which are well worth listening to, if only to expand your perspective on the topic and make up your own mind. In this video, however, we will look at how we can move forward from colonization and build a world where every individual is treated with dignity and respect. A world where we can create a brighter future together, not a world where there's us versus them divide, and this divide continues to increase. An increase in the us versus them divide can only cause us pain, whether we are the colonized or the persons that have colonized other places. So we need to find middle ground. Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica, your transformational sociologist. Now, what is my qualification for speaking about this? I've got a bachelor's in history, so I know quite a lot about British English and to some degree New Zealand history. Now, there's other histories that I do not know about, so post in comments your experience of colonization so I can expand my thoughts. So in terms of moving forward from colonization, what are the things we must do? We must firstly confront the historical wrongs. Colonization, marked by exploitation, oppression, and cultural eradication, is a wrong that cannot be denied. Yet the question of how to address this injustice without causing more harm, not just for the colonizers, but also the colonized, is a complex topic. I find oftentimes it's quite fashionable these days to cancel the past. I understand, coming from a place like India and New Zealand, how it can be quite appealing to cancel the past, but practically this is a challenge. Practically canceling the past does not change the future. If at all, it only creates a negative future for all of us. Reparations, when thoughtfully executed, can contribute to healing, but hasty or poorly planned efforts can lead to confusion and conflict. I also find that people with their own agendas talk about reparations in a way that's not tangible, but just suits their own purposes. And I get quite frustrated when I listen to it, simply because I feel that these people are using the pains caused by the colonizers of my ancestors and of many peoples around the world for their own purposes. So while you talk about reparations and moving forward, don't give in to hate. Only understand real practical solutions so we can all move forward together as different peoples, but with one agenda, which is to improve the quality of life in this world for everybody. Now, I talked before about my educational academic qualifications and also my lived experience in diverse Commonwealth experiences in India and New Zealand, and also having lived in England for some time. Now, look, in India, in countries like India and New Zealand, the shadows of colonization linger. For example, India's history is rich and diverse, yet the return of the Kohinoor diamond, which has been in the media for the in the recent past, since the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, people have been discussing and becoming so passionate about. Let's right the wrong. We must return the Kohinoor diamond. Look, I understand the frustrations, but I think in examples like this, we need to take a step back, take a breather, and figure out what exactly it is we are asking. Now, the return of the Kohinoor diamond, whilst symbolic, cannot be a panacea for its complex for India's complex issues. It is not going to solve the issues of today. While there might be a time in the future when perhaps the return of the Kohinoor may have more significant realistic benefits, but I think at the moment India's got other issues that to grapple with, and it must not fall into the hands of people with private agendas to just have symbolic fights over something that's not going to benefit other people moving forward into the future. And New Zealand, with its biculturalism, grapples. I see every day we grapple with. I sit between the Maori world and the supposedly colonized world, the world of the settlers. But for us, for this land, for this Whenua to find peace, it can't be us versus them. It must be how all of us together can move on this journey together, so the land, the people of the land, all of us can build a stronger tomorrow today, and hatred must not play a part of it. Yes, we must right the wrongs where we can. It must be tangible, it must be practical, that benefits everybody, and it must be done in a way that's respectful, and so together we can move forward. Now, the paradox of unity in the midst of injustice. Like they say, different things make our blood boil. For me, it is injustice. I want to see justice done in the world. So I understand those of you are saying, let's get on and do this. But I've learned that change can only occur one conversation at a time, one change at a time. And we must have unity in the midst of injustice. Examining India's history, for example, it's apparent that colonization has inadvertently, it's just a byproduct, it's not, the colonizers didn't come in with an angelic attitude. When you look at Indian history, it's quite obvious to see that colonization has inadvertently led to unity within the nation. Before the latest colonization, which was the British colonization, there was no one nation. They were the Mughals, there were the Persians before then, and there were lots of small states. So inadvertently, the byproduct of the latest colonization, which was the British colonization, was Indians uniting together as one. Now, I'm not saying that justifies colonization, but what I am saying is, can the Indians work together then to strengthen that country so everyone there can live with dignity and move forward? To just bear in mind, I'm saying this again, unity, the unity cannot justify the horrors of colonization. However, we must remember we cannot change the past. And even if unity is a byproduct, can you guys utilize that to create a stronger tomorrow for the people? Because you see, to move forward, societies must reconcile the paradox of finding strength in unity while acknowledging historical injustices. I see today, look, I haven't been to India in a while, but I see that it is still kind of, the last time I went, I was abused by somebody because they thought I was actually from this is in a North Indian country. They thought I was from the south of the country, but then they apologized when they figured out I was from New Zealand. And I thought, wow, what double standard, So within the country there must be unity, so we can together create a stronger nation. So look for unity in the midst of injustice, and then once that's done, and other reparations that symbolic will follow over time. But just having symbolic reparations without real meaty substance to change the country will not have long lasting positive results. So, what are the strategies for moving forward? Firstly, we need to balance acknowledgement and progress. By acknowledgement, I mean acknowledging that wrongs were done in the past, and then also figure out how can we move forward into the future, realizing that this was the history. I find it sometimes in New Zealand, I read people's commentaries on social media, and as a student of history, I feel like they're just trying to cancel the past to create a better future. But in fact, canceling the past means we only forget what happened in the past, and then the past will happen again. So we need to remember the past so we can learn from the past so we can create a better future together and shape tomorrow in a way that's beneficial for all. Tomorrow, a tomorrow where everyone can live with dignity. That's the first step, is balancing acknowledgement and progress. Secondly, we need to look at thoughtful reparations. Now, reparations must be considered, must be beyond symbolism. They should address systemic issues, support marginalized communities, and promote education and historical injustices. Now, look, I have studied Indian history to some degree, British history and New Zealand history. I don't know American history in depth, but there was someone in America talking about there was an English actor whose ancestors, great grandparents, were plantation owners, and that he needed to give them money back. I don't know how that would work. Then where does it stop? It doesn't work. So I know it's traumatizing. Injustice is not fair and it shouldn't be tolerated. But any reparations must make sense. It must go beyond just symbolism. It needs to make absolute sense, and that's practical for all peoples concerned. And thirdly, we must foster dialogue. And one of the reasons I'm doing this video today is so I can foster dialogue with any of you that's listening to this. Look, if there's any points I've mentioned that you disagree with, I'd like you to send me an email or just post in comments what you disagree with and why, so we can progress this dialogue and find a solution that's workable with a view. My perspective is that anything that we do must create a better tomorrow for all children, my children, your children, all our children, and we're a world crafting a place where people can live with dignity. That is my passion. And so anything that goes with it, I'll be willing to listen. So just post in comments and I'd love to dialogue with you. And we all must be willing to dialogue with each other on how we can move forward to a better tomorrow. Fourthly, we need to address internal challenges. Nations must confront present-day challenges such as corruption without solely blaming the past. Now, my country of birth, India, like I moved to New Zealand many years ago, which is why this is my second homeland. But I was born in India, and I see a commentary from India, although I haven't been there for a while, talking about any mistake of the past seems to be the fault of the British. Now, let me again reiterate, I am not justifying any form of colonization. But you can't just, why are you corrupt today? That's because the British ruled me 70 years ago. Does not mean, the Mughals ruled us 200 years ago. It doesn't make sense. Why are you destroying that mosque that was built 200 years ago? Oh, because the Mughals destroyed it 500 years ago. Or why are you destroying that temple 500 years ago? Because the Hindus then destroyed the temple 600 years ago. You can't keep blaming the past for everything, which I feel happens in India to some degree, and sometimes it happens in New Zealand too, but to a lesser extent, I think. So it needs to be something you need to address your internal challenges. I don't think India's corruption today is anything to do with the British. You can have, it may have started there, but where there's a will, there's a way. Why not all the people in India get together to create a future, have a challenge, like when somebody tells me that I'm not good enough, that I'm only third world, I'm only this, I'm only that, I say, look, I use it as a challenge and a motivation to craft a positive path. I think India should do that. And when you have roading plans or plans, just plan it properly, get the support of other countries. I really think New Zealand is justice system is the corruption rate in New Zealand is less. So can India use support from people like the New Zealand Police Force or New Zealand Justice to figure out how they can strengthen the Indian justice system? And likewise, India has got lots of positive perhaps New Zealand and the UK can learn from and get their support. So it's unity. If you feel there's an issue internally, you must figure out a way to solve it without blaming someone else for that fault. And India, as an example, it's corruption. And India must deal with it without trying to blame colonization for it. And the other thing I have found as well in my desktop research, a lot of my Indian cousins seem to blame, have this rose-tinted glass for everything that happened before British colonization, like as if life was perfect, and now suddenly it's not. Now let's get it right. British were not angels. They came in there to pillage the country, and that was absolutely wrong. But the past before then was not rose tinted either. So be realistic about it, that say, okay, we had a good lifestyle. Some things were good, some things were bad, but now we need to build a world, a country, a nation, a state where everyone's equal, everyone can live with dignity. And these are the clear strategic ways in which we will move forward. And as you plan that, you might come up with a solution that a clear, tangible, strategic way is that we think, I'm using this as an example, the UK should be giving us reparation for A, B, or C. That's very practical, not return the Kohinoor diamond. To what end, I'm not sure. Just something very practical to move the nation forward. Or in New Zealand, there are some parties that are coming up with policies that say, anyone can claim land regardless of, whether it's private land. Currently, it is not going to make, I think it's the Green Party that are now saying things like, oh, it shouldn't be just about the Maori, the tribunal. It should be anyone who, any property in private land 4 or 5 generations later can be claimed back. Now it's noble aspiration, but what my passion is to create a craft a place in the world that doesn't hurt the land, doesn't hurt any of the people. That plan of this particular party is only going to hurt not just the people that own the land, but also the people that they're trying to get votes from. I think it's just a voting thing, and it is going to affect the Maori people because it's going to increase the us versus them divide. There needs to be a certain point beyond which, how are you going to go and claim land back from a private residential land property that's been transferred through many generations, through many multiple owners? That I feel is just propaganda to get more votes, and that's short-term thinking. I think there's a lot of wrong done in New Zealand that needs to be addressed, and I do think we are addressing that, and perhaps there are better ways to address it, but not just through propaganda to get more votes, and that will cause hatred and create an us versus them divide. So address internal challenges, and any suggestion you put forward, it needs to be for the common good. So in India, for the benefit of the people in India, in New Zealand, for the benefit of the Maori people that were affected. But so long as it can move the nation forward together as one and not to cause civil unrest. Now, as a student of history and also as a sociologist, I love looking at people movements and understanding human behavior. and also understanding human behavior from the past and how that's contributed to the present, I look at, this is my point number 5, if we don't narrow the us versus them divide, we will end up like some African countries, which has caused civil unrest. Now, for example, South Africa or Zimbabwe is a case in point. Whatever happened there was absolutely wrong, and it needs to be put right. But now what they've done is there's so much civil unrest. It has affected not just the colonizers, it's also affected the poorer people that have been colonized for hundreds of years. They still continue to struggle because a few people that want to cause mischief are causing civil unrest. It just breaks my heart. When I see the whenua, the land in New Zealand, I do not, my heart bleeds. I love this land, and I will do anything to work towards creating unity in this land and not divisiveness. Unity that looks at reparations in a sensible manner, in a way that can lead us forward. And I would encourage my Indian cousins to do the same. Now, why am I interested in this topic? Look, there comes a point in life we need to look at the things we are passionate about. Every person's life culminates to a point where we need to talk about, we need to be at the forefront of things that we are passionate about. Now, as a child growing up in India and then moving to New Zealand, doing a bachelor's in history, understanding Indian history, English history, and then in New Zealand, understanding New Zealand history to some degree, I've always been interested in history. I've always been interested in human behavior and how all that culminates together into crafting a place for each of us in the world. But you see, we're not an island. We're all living together. So we're all, the places we craft today, my friends, are the places that we will leave for our children in the future. So when colonization is a topic that comes in to play, it's at the forefront today, and we're looking at different ways of doing things, that there's not just one way of doing things. We need to get the rich histories of various cultures, so together we can build a stronger commonwealth of equal partnership, a stronger world where all of us live with dignity. And to happen, yes, we must address the wrongs of the past. We must not limit ourselves to the one way of doing things. We must embrace all our culture, Maori culture, Indian culture, every culture, towards a common good. But in so doing, we mustn't cancel the past. The past, I'm not saying the past is justified, but the past is real. The past happened. History is a study of the past in the present for the future. History is not studied so we can cancel the past, so we can live in La La Land, forget the past, and then history repeats itself again. So, my friends, as you look forward to fighting for justice, to fighting for reparations, moving forward from colonization, why not look at a different way of colonizing, or find a new word for it, where we're all one, where we colonize people's minds with positivity, where everybody has the right to live with dignity and bring their best selves forward. And when that happens, we all benefit, not just one person, not just two people, not just one race, not just two races, but all of us benefit, and we will create a stronger, better, more powerful world. And let's together craft a place in the world that benefits all of us. And to do that, we must heal. We must heal. Let's be real with the past, heal, and shape a future that benefits all of us. I'm Dr. Jessica Gray. I'm happy to come and speak to you either virtually or in a debate, or through just conversations, or through public speaking, to progress this topic forward. Remember, you are worth it. You can craft a place in the world that can create a better future, not just for you, your community, your country, and the world. If you've liked this video, click on subscribe, like, and share. And also please comment or send me an email, contact at drjg, Dr. Jessica Gray, contact at drjg.co.nz. Make sure you buy my book, Awaken Your Greatness, Dynamic Letters of Transformation, and we can have a chat to make this world a stronger, better place. Keep sparkling wherever you are.